All right, this is Sacred Frames. Jeff Cook, movie Mike Yeager, Sean Palmer. Gentlemen, we're talking about Disclosure
Yes,
Day.
we are.
This is Spielberg's latest, another alien entry. We apparently, off mic, have discussed how we have mixed opinions that will get debated at length, I assume. Who wants to start with their big take on this film?
I'll hop in here first because I kind of have a sense of Mike's feelings. So this is a hard one for me because I have to write this. I have to write articles for Good Faith Media reviewing movies, and they always want them very tight, which is understandable. Hard word count. And I'm watching this knowing that I'm going to write about Disclosure Day. And I didn't pay attention to a lot of the trailers because I wanted to be surprised. And I found this at the same time. I don't know if I've ever had this experience while watching a movie. I was totally interested, totally engrossed, and saw problems all over the place. Right? And not in that dumb movie. You know how there are some movies like this is a dumb movie, but I love it. Like everybody has dumb movies that they love. It's not that. It's not guilty pleasure. It's so well crafted. It is, to use one of Mike's words, propulsive. There are a couple of places that it slows down. Like in the middle of the experience thought, oh, I have never been this emotionally invested in like the thumping storytelling of a movie. And that's what it felt like to me. Like stuff was just always happening. I heard someone describe it as a slow burn. And I was like, did we see the same movie? Because like this thing was I described it in my article as a freight train. Which I wasn't being ironic because there is a freight train, a great scene with a freight train in the movie. So it's one of those, like, I loved it. It's not throwaway. It's got problems. It's a good movie, not a great movie, but it has great instincts and great filmmaking.
I'm going to come with the middle chapter and the dark chapter here. My big takeaway is that Disclosure Day is to the Spielberg canon what Mandalorian and Grogu is to Star Wars. At its best, it is footnotes to a vastly more important set of movies that you have to be familiar with and emotionally connected to in order to enjoy this. My wife didn't know it was a Spielberg film. She thought it was ridiculous. When she found out it was a Spielberg film, it made more sense to her. And then she was like, oh, okay. But for me, never connected with this movie. Didn't connect with its heart, characters, its message. There is so much here at a macro level. It had energy, but it didn't have anything that was magnetic. And it may be the case that just from the outset, I didn't know if it was parody. I thought that it was going to be a bait and switch. I thought that Spielberg was like doing a parody of Spielberg so that there would be like 10 minutes in a little switch and then we're doing something else. It's not just that it feels like parody. It's that, does this movie say anything interesting about faith? No. Does this movie pitch high-level philosophical questions, as one Sean Fantasy suggests? It does not. In a movie about the power of empathy, I have zero empathy for any of these characters. The crying is manufactured. The mustache twirling villainy, the deeply unsatisfying ending, the silly action set pieces. I can continue, and I'm not going to. I never, ever, ever got connected.
Okay, before Mike gives his take, and we're going to have to like clear the lane for Mike to talk about this, I did just want to say that in my piece, like to your point about the questions that it asked, I think I described it in my piece as like Spielberg being the host of a dinner party where he just introduces someone to someone else and then walks away. And it's like, let me introduce you to a religious question. Let me introduce you to a philosophical question. Let me introduce you to a scientific question. But we're not going to actually deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you. I'm with you there. All right. So
Much
now
to say
I'm
there.
going to mute my mic and give the floor to movie Mike.
So Jeff has just lowered his sunglasses and met my eye line. And I just want to say to you, brother, she didn't mean it. You're just having a bad morning. She's up all night with the baby. Like you could use a nap. I know you're grumpy.
In a great mood. Fucking movies with my friends.
So let me tell you why. I mean, I'll keep telling you over the next several minutes why Disclosure Day is not only one of the movies of this particular year and a movie of our moment, but I just pulled up my my Letterboxd for my Spielberg rankings. My top 5 Spielberg movies.
No, it did not make the top 5.
AI, E.T.,
You're gonna cut me.
Catch Me If You Can. We'll fight about that another day.
We will fight about that.
The Fabelmans, and a movie that is very much in dialogue with The Fabelmans as a late period masterpiece, Disclosure Day. A movie which, since its release last Thursday night, I have seen, I got to admit, 4 times. I'm not particularly proud of this. But I did take a close friend. I went with my son. I took my wife because she was unavailable to go along with my son because she was watching my daughter, a little young for it. And then I saw it once again last night to make some final notes. A film that I find is very much in dialogue with the entirety of Spielberg's canon, is revelatory of his own continued wrestling these thematic concerns that were made very explicit in this relationship to his parents, spelled out in The Fabelmans. The relationship to faith and seeking beyond. These have been questions, throughout his entire career. We'll get into it. And then it's just kind of a movie hardwired for me as a person. You may or may not be familiar with the, Clifton Strengths Finder, this, personality typing, these 30 some odd attributes. And when I took this years ago for the first time, my 5 core strengths being empathy, connectedness, intellection, developer, and belief. Pre-ministry had no idea what I was supposed to do with all of that at the time. But this is a film very much about that. Are we going to see one another? Are we going to recognize that we are woven in this tapestry, not just as a shared humanity, but as a creation in the cosmos, in ways that we cannot begin to unravel any more than we can begin to understand, which is, so part of the journey is about the inward, the inward looking, not for its own sake, but in the manner in which it pulls us outward and activates us to become the fullest version of ourselves into this shared experience. It's wonderful. It's Spielberg very much at his best, and but I want to hand it back to y'all because we've got a lot to talk about.
Okay, so a couple of things about that. The fact that Schindler's List is not in your top 5 is absolutely
I would
atrocious.
think.
Okay, guys, it's in my top 10. All right, look,
Like,
Lincoln is 15, and Lincoln is a near masterpiece. Like it's a matter of degrees here.
Okay, so first of all, that, and secondly, I understand exactly what you're saying, but you are making a cinephile's argument for your love for the movie. So, and what I mean by that, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but your argument is based on people who watch a lot of movies, who are looking for connectedness thematically between storytellers and in a storyteller's life over time. You are linking, as many reviewers have done, what does Disclosure Day have to say about Minority Report, have to say about Close Encounters, has to say about AI, that Spielberg is making a larger thematic argument, and he's gotten to a place at this place in life, in his own life, where he's able to say this, like things that he was poking at in Close Encounters, he is verbalizing fully in Disclosure Day. Mm-hmm. But as wonderful as that is, I just want us to know, like, that's a cinephile's argument, not I drove here with my dad, I'm 15, and we're going to watch this science fiction movie together. And I think what's important about that is I think that actually speaks to the reception that the movie has gotten. This is divisive in a particular way that I find interesting, both amongst critics and amongst just regular moviegoers. Some people love it, and no one hates it, but it's just kind of like, okay. Like, it's okay. Except Jeff. Jeff has the strongest argument to hate it. Like, he is, like, in Close Encounters, he was saying, what if? And in Disclosure Day, he's saying, there are. And what about the there are-ness of it? What it means for humans. Is that fair?
Fair. I'm going to make the case that it's ultimately not even a movie about the aliens. They are certainly the backdrop of it. Like, that's the premise that's encoded into it. But no, it is a movie very much about us and what this revelation reveals about who we are and who we think we are versus who we actually are. Any other initial thoughts? I mean, I may just kind of like grab us and take us into the plot here.
That'd be great. Go for it.
So we're starting in media res with the boot of a professional wrestler coming into onto the vase here. The camera is just in the middle of this. I want to say manufactured conflict. This professional wrestling endeavor. It's very color coded, red and blue at this moment of disconnection societally. So like from the outset. Spielberg is kind of laying out some of his concerns here, and we pan in on Daniel Kellner, played by Josh O'Connor, and he is sitting waiting on some kind of drop. He's got some federal agents behind him. It's clear that he is potentially taken something that doesn't belong to him. He's pulled outside into the alleyway where we meet, what is his name again?
Noah Scanlon.
Noah Scanlon, exactly. Colin Firth.
It's a great villain name.
And so he has stolen information. We don't know what it is yet. We know that that it is important enough that they have abducted his girlfriend, played by Jane Eve Hewson, who is also, incidentally, if not that it's necessary information, but is Bono's daughter.
Bono's daughter.
Oh,
There you go, Eve Hewson. Very good in Bridge of Spies, in Flora and Son. But it's important enough to abduct this young woman. And as they are being potentially freed, Daniel reaches behind him. He grabs a glove, and into his pocket, he reaches out this alien device, this kind of rod of sorts, which immediately has everyone concerned. Scanlon backs off. Clearly, no one wants this thing to activate, whatever that means, and we are off to the races. Daniel and Jane now on the run, having stolen the data that they paid him to protect. That's just a perfect log line for a chase thriller, and we're off and running. So as we're kind of starting off, like where are y'all at in the story? Are you already invested? What's kind of on your mind when Daniel says something about like, oh, you committed treason? No, it's not treason. They're not the government when they lie for a living. In conversation with Spielberg's latest outset, such as like The Post, like we're kind of like riffing on all of these films throughout his filmography along the way.
Well, I think it's a great storytelling technique because right now we are just immersed with stories that begin with a drone flyover of a city, and then the name of the city like comes across on a title card, and Spielberg drops all of that, and like we are off to the races. And I think the question when you name a movie like Disclosure Day, the aliens were in the trailer, the name is in the trailer, and maybe this is why Jeff found the ending unsatisfactory. But what you didn't know is Disclosure Day the beginning of the movie or the end of the movie, right? Does it start with Disclosure Day?
Both will be problematic.
And then we see what Disclosure Day means, or are we working toward Disclosure Day? And who everybody is in the first 2 minutes. You meet Noah Scanlon, and think about it like, Noah, in his own mind, is the protector of humanity, right? So misguided this character may be, wrong this character may be. We don't even really know yet if that's the case, because I mean we need Disclosure afternoon or evening or Disclosure part 2 to know how people genuinely respond to Disclosure Day. But I thought that was great. I loved it, and like I said, I was bought in from go.
I don't know how to argue other than to say cardboard villains, MacGuffins, flares, bizarre exposition. Bizarre exposition.
Which I would argue is, again, is Spielberg getting back to the basics. It's him. It's taking the tool set that gained from decades of mastery of the form, and he's going back to where it began, not just thematically, but going back for him as a filmmaker playing in this genre film box where, like, there's not any really villains necessarily. They're kind of misguided, and yes, they are cardboard, and yes, when Daniel and Jane escape, after running the car off the cliff, they kind of just like duck behind a big rock, like, and you just accept that this is the conceit of we are moving along in this more popcorny kind of way. And
isn't that Spielberg though for his blockbusters? So if you define a blockbuster as over $100 million budget with big name stars, everything is very simple. Like Jaws, there's a sheriff who is afraid of the water, and there's a shark out there. Minority Report, like there's a guy who's hunting for his son's killer.
Yeah, we got to get these two characters together and back to the news station. That's really it.
Yeah.
Which, all right, I will come back to that as the primary because I think that's important to name. I want to talk about Spielberg for 2 seconds. There is way too much Spielberg in this Spielberg film. It's not a standalone film. Much of its emotional and thematic weight seems to borrow from all these other stories rather than earning something on its own terms. If you need familiarity,
of course it does.
If you need familiarity with decades of Spielberg work to appreciate what the movie's doing, the film doesn't function.
No, you don't need it
as a piece of art.
It deepens the appreciation. It's not necessary at its core.
It certainly does, but like percentage-wise, it's like 95% of the movie is you have to really love the nuanced take that Spielberg has on alien life and their meaning for humanity if they were uncovered. And that, like, so much the passion that he has clearly for what that would mean for us and our existential view of ourselves is there, and it's not earned in this film. It depends on other pieces of work, and he can't get out of his way in this movie. It's just so much of himself inserting himself into this movie, and
I don't think he's trying to get out of his way.
I think you're right.
I think the reason that Mike appreciates it is he's 79 and he's doing what all of us do as we get older, when we're looking back over the landscape of our lives and we start to pull on all the strings that seemed disconnected at the time. And we were discovering they weren't. Like they were leading me. I mean, that's what The Fabelmans is. That's what this movie is. Like I'm pulling at all of this. I'm trying to bring for myself coherence to this experience and what I think and what I believe. And so I think your take is true. And that's what I said about the cinephile thing. You shouldn't, for a movie as its own piece of art, you shouldn't have to do all of the homework to appreciate it. But having done all the homework, that's why the people who appreciate it. And
I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Why I think a 12-year-old boy would be like, Emily Blunt looked good in that pink dress. I really...
I mean, I've got a very sensitive 12-year-old boy, but Miles loved it. Like he really did. And yes, we're watching pieces of the Spielberg filmography along the way. So he has some internal context to it, and then also we're talking about some of these elements afterwards. Like I get that frames his experience of it in a different way, but I'm arguing that not dismissing your point here, Jeff, but I do think that this film has more going for it on a pure cinematic level, and we're about to get to a big reason why that is. You know, we've met a couple other characters. I do want to mention it also. We've found out that Jane is a former novitiate. We've visited her convent and met Sister Mara, played by Elizabeth Marvell. She'll figure in an important phone call later on, and also in another phone call we meet Hugo, played by Coleman Domingo, and he is kind of back at some unforeseen headquarters. There seem to be building a construction site or like a movie set, something along the lines, it looks like, in the background. And he is our kind of John the Baptist figure along the way, is how I've thought about Hugo. We know that he is absent from his work at Wardex, which is run by Colin Firth. He is the quote, I wrote this down, the director of biological assets. That is his job title with
one
Wardex.
Biological asset for sure.
But I think something really important that we learn about Hugo early on is that he is not worried, seemingly, about what's going on. Like he's talking to Daniel. He's like, "You've got the ball. We're on plan." He is unbothered about what seems to be this conspiracy thriller unfolding in real time. He's just taking a breath and let's get on with it. And then we pan to Kansas City, Missouri, and we meet Margaret Fairchild, played by Emily Blunt, and she is a local weather person. She's got the weather shimmy for Hail Day. It's such a winning, charming introduction. But she's introduced to us as this person who is very kind of restless. She's living with Wyatt Russell, long-term boyfriend, but it seems like they may be a bit on the outs in terms of their respective directions in life. And through the open window, a red cardinal flies in and lands on her kitchen table, at which point she starts speaking Russian. And then
a very good Russian.
Yes.
Like, I don't speak Russian, but she sounded credible.
So action has shifted to this new character, and so I'll say this one piece and then back off. We've got two scenes in a row that are exactly what I'm getting at here. We've got the traffic stop scene with the police officer who has pulled her over. She has been activated by this encounter with this cardinal. Something just flashed into her. We don't really know yet what it is, aside from the fact that she's been speaking Russian. And then she's pulled over by a cop she's late for her job. She's got to get on camera, and this guy's ready to give her a ticket. And as soon as they look one another in the eyes, she sees into his soul and sees exactly what is driving him, this ache in his marriage, everything that is painting him as a human being, as a fellow image bearer in this moment. And she sees him, and then she says, "I can go now, right?" And she grabs her driver's license, she carries on. And then walk into the TV station.
First of all,
yes, go.
We have to stop because this is the first scene that I bumped up against for two reasons. One, if you are going on TV, you literally cannot get there 3 minutes before you go on. Like, this is ridiculous. And two, women who look like Emily Blunt don't get tickets. Like, she didn't have to see into his soul at all. She could have just looked at him and said, "I can go," right? And he would have been like, "Yeah."
It opened with a professional wrestling match. This is a fable, you guys.
But these are my thoughts in real time in the movie. There's like, women who look like Emily Blunt don't get tickets. Like, she has never gotten a ticket in her entire life. Like, all right, we're at the theater. We're at the movie. We're at the TV station, rather. Go.
And
This whole
And we're just to mention, because in terms of bravura filmmaking, like, this is Spielberg at his very best. From the time that we walk in to this TV station, she goes to makeup room, she walks through the hallway, she walks through the entirety of the set. She foils a domestic abuser. She talks Korean and helps produce this segment on this war that's happening in real time. That's kind of the parallel tension of the film that's unfolding. This real world tensions that are beginning to blow up with North Korea. She walks toward the set. She hits her marks right on time, and she's ready to deliver the weather report. That is all in one shot. And this is just Emily Blunt. I'm going to say it here, is the performance of her career, for one.
Absolutely.
Is tremendous in the film. I will be talking about getting her an Oscar from this point on until next March. So get ready. There you go. But Jeff is like turning red, so I've got to hand it back over.
I so love that you love this movie. I do want to pause and say I want to celebrate with joy that people love movies and come out of them feeling invigorated. The scene with the cop. What's the problem in this movie? The problem is humanity. This is a Calvinistic movie. Humanity is totally depraved. We lack basic empathy and the ability to see one another. And you know what's going to save us? Aliens. Alien power will open our eyes to our shared humanity and deliver us. I don't know that there's any other theme here. It is, as you said, it's a conspiracy thriller. It's gesturing helter-skelter towards theology and philosophy and government and science and AI and trauma and trying to find a basic place to say there's meaning here somewhere. Seven that he is, Spielberg's brain is on fire with 28,000 possibilities, and he's going to tell you all of them, but never actually land. But it starts here. The problem is human beings, and that cynical approach.
Isn't that something? It's a better theological argument than he tries to make in the movie. And there's humanity is not capable of saving itself. So
Correct.
In order for us to be saved, we need some sort of external force to who we are to come get us that which we do not necessarily lack, but we have chosen to turn off.
Calvinist movie.
And wouldn't you know it, the very next scene in the film, we are going to flash back now to Daniel and to Jane. Jane having joined him on the road. I'm coming with you. You're going to tell me the truth of what's going on here now or at some point in time here soon. And they pull up into this farmhouse. Janusz Kaminski. It's just pools of light everywhere. It's all desaturated, but it's just beautiful. And they walk in. He sees this stag, another one of these terrifying, friendly animals figure come in. And what does he say? It's they're scared, but they're not. They're bold, but they run away when you point the camera. And he then, in this next scene, he shows Jane, well, this is the secret. This is what has been happening. Not only it is what we all know we're going into this movie expecting. Oh, it's aliens. Aliens are real. But not just that. Is that after having landed in Roswell and then subsequently elsewhere, that we did what we do as humans, that instead of meeting that which we do not know, that'll come up, with curiosity and with hospitality and with embrace, no, we take and study and traumatize, we inflict upon the other. So this is the core of the theological read of the movie for me is we had a visitor from beyond who activated us into viewing ourselves and the world through a different prism than the limited one that we had been granted in our humanness. And know what we did? We killed him. And so this is a movie, and this is any movie ultimately about aliens. It's not about aliens. A movie about life beyond is about what we think of life here.
Do you think Spielberg thinks that?
I absolutely think that. I think his take is inviting us into not just a humility in our limited human experience, but a cosmic humility born of that humility that goes back to the core of why we are the way we are. Why?
See,
Go
my
ahead.
argument though, my argument would be that this is the core human story, and it's why it keeps coming up, right? Regardless of whether the storyteller is intending to tell that story. I anxiously await this afternoon my arrival of The Matrix in 4K. And so here's what happened with The Matrix is they told this really Christocentric story, and then everybody goes, oh, I know that story. And then they say, oh, well, that's not the one we wanted to tell it, so let's make 2 jacked up movies to follow it. Like we want to get so far away from that story that we weren't intentionally telling that we will mess up the story that we are telling. But I just think, theologically speaking, like this, we keep coming back to this story for a reason. Like it could actually just be written on the human heart. And so we have things like aliens, and we have things like, what if computers used us as batteries, like to keep telling that story because we have to tell that story. It was encoded, before we were even born though. So.
And it's something different that activates within both Margaret, certainly, and we come to learn that also that Daniel has been shown this clip of Margaret clicking on the news broadcast, but Daniel can hear her in perfect English, and he hears what she says, which is, "Don't be afraid of what you don't know." And so we learn that not only Margaret is activated, Daniel is activated in a way that is linked. We realize his is more mathematic based. Like he can just see the equations form in his head as if they were flowing as naturally as Emily Blunt, as Margaret is able to see into other people. So we have these gifts that are very much paired in a way, and we're starting to get a sense of how they're being guided together. But what I love is that they are activated through a, like it's kind of like the Charlie Bucket test, like the Willy Wonka thing. Like there is a pureness of heart where they are always, like Daniel is always seeing Jane before he's seeing even this sensitive information. He says, like, there's the backpack in the hotel. No, you first. Here's all the money that I have. Go, be safe, go. It's always putting the person before even the task at hand. And then it's then Margaret and Daniel both, whether it's a car chase, whether it's, running along this fence line and abducting a federal vehicle, or whether it's Hugo kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes, having been activated by this force from beyond, there is no sense of worry in these people. There is just an internal, confidence. Like, what did she say to Russell at the gas station? Like, no, I told you that when I got where I was meant to be, that I'd tell you, and here it is. Like, this is it. It's like it's I'm in the flow. I can't describe it. But I'm also not in control of it. I'm a vessel. I'm a instrument. I'm a passenger of this thing. But it's not a bad thing. It's a really, really good thing. I've been touched by, like, the movie doesn't say it, but no, touched by heaven. That's what this movie is about. And what that does, and how the world can't really see it. In part because it doesn't want to.
I suppose I'm going to continue to say it's a vision of total depravity, and you need to be rescued from outside, as opposed to something like that you would see in Schindler's List that does show like the severe dysfunction of human beings, and yet points to humanity emerging in the most dark spot in these glorious ways. I suppose I can't say much more than I get the idea and resonate with your telling of it. It may, for me, it may just be an execution problem that just I don't know what else to do with that. Like I just wasn't moved, but I understand the story for sure.
So what do you guys think of? So because we're
Yeah.
because this second act of the film, like it does get, I'll give you this, like it does get a little bit ponderous and wordy, and there's a couple of scenes. Scanlon kind of drops in on Jane, and that's how he's ultimately getting information about her and Daniel's whereabouts. That leads to one of these great, little car chases. But then also,
I thought the car crashing through the house was really fun.
Oh, man.
The long tracking shot when Daniel is returning to the farmhouse, like that. The second act is some of the best filmmaking, and that's where Spielberg is really flexing muscle. Those images when Scanlon drops in on Jane and she's palming the crucifix, just to, like, she's palming the crucifix to maintain in that conversation who she is.
Yes.
Right. To not be overwhelmed by this, which I think is a really important image. But then she has a phone call with her former Mother Superior, right? Mm-hmm. And she has these questions about Genesis and the creation story that she learned. And this is where I got kind of pulled out. She says, like, aren't we supposed to be like the crown jewel of creation?
God's supreme creation.
The supreme creation. And I'm sitting there next to my 22-year-old daughter, and we're looking at each other and saying, that's not what the Bible says. Right? Like, that's not, like, that's a theological argument that people have made from the way that they want to read the days of creation and how they want to do that. But, and this is what kind of annoyed me at this point in the movie, is please don't make your big theological argument something that's not actually biblical.
Just straw man.
Yeah. And then the conversation that Noah has about, like, well, people will stop believing. And, okay, no one through history has looked to the stars for other life historically more than Christians. Like, Christian scientists have always been around. And I just thought, like, that is just not doing your homework. And that part legitimately bothered me. There have been priest scientists for several hundred years. And so pick up the phone in LA, Stephen. There are pastors, priests, pastoral workers who could have helped you write that better.
See, and maybe I'm just in the tank. It just didn't bother me. Like I in my reading of it was less that it was a verbatim scriptural passage than it was intimating that God had given dominion in this cosmically geographic limited scope. Like it was just inviting the possibility. Well, why would he create such a vast universe and then leave it all for us? Like I think that gets back to what I'm trying to keep pressing at is what you believe about life beyond Earth really says what you believe about life here.
But I want to say that if the Bible actually said, like, supreme whatever it was, then this movie doesn't debunk that, because Spielberg says almost every science fiction alien movie says, we keep having visitors from outer space and we just assume they're smarter than us, but clearly not, because they keep crashing into crap. Like, you got all the way here and forgot how to fly. So what about the alien landing or the alien like, why do they get here and forget how to fly?
Just the first couple crashed. This is the first couple.
I got a question for Mike on this front. What, Mike, on these scenes, what is Spielberg trying to say about theology and faith, if anything, in these scenes?
Well, I mean, it's what I just said, but that's happening in tandem with these two individuals coming together who, like, again, like we're now getting to, this is really important, right? Because the characters are now coming together. They've found out Scanlon has dropped in on Jane. They've gotten the jump on them at this hotel. Jane gets away. She's got the spare device in hand as well that's safe with her for the time being. And Daniel is taken into custody by Scanlon and the crew there. And then what happens next is Margaret just pulls up to the gate, and she uses her magic powers that she doesn't realize are even magic, but just like she knows the codes. She knows who you are. She waltzes right up into the trailer where Daniel is being held, and the two of them share this moment. No, I know you. We've been these magnets bound for one another from this point on. And then when they leave, this is the scene where it is the schmaltziest scene in the film by a mile. And if you're not in for it, then you're going to have a really hard time the rest of the way, because as they happen upon these agents attempting to stop them, they don't even realize they're doing it. But each of these people sees these faces from their past, these messages from beyond, like these angels. Stop them in their tracks. Even Scanlon has seen his departed wife. There's something here that is connecting all of these people to something like more soulful and primal. None of them can name. Like, it just stops them dead in their tracks, except for Boyd, the lieutenant guy that just refuses to see. And as they're approaching this crossing, and they're asking themselves, what happened to us? Right at that moment, that's when the enemy is plowing into us from behind and trying to destroy us, via this oncoming train. Like it's great filmmaking, but it's also about the resistance to the idea that he will unpack not two scenes down the line when they go back home. In the meantime, we've got, them awesome hanging off the train, and in the train car and the reenactment of the Fabelmans and this panic attack that is sated by these two individuals who represent Spielberg's own mother and father, and the computational awareness with the soulfulness of a musician and a performer and a communicator. And it's beautiful. Like it's him on celluloid saying, this is who I am. So of course it's self-indulgent, because it's so profoundly personal. And you know what? I just gave you an awesome train crash. If you're not getting all that, you're along for the ride.
Well, interesting. I'd heard him talk about the train scene, which I thought was fabulous. And how he had always wanted to do that scene. He had always wanted to have one of those, but hadn't figured out a way to pull it off. And like, it's actually, if you just like the action, I don't understand people who complain about the action in this movie, because I thought it was actually inventive without being over the top. But it is after this train scene, for me, the movie slows down. They start to understand. And I would say the third act of this movie, which I place when they are together with Hugo.
Yep.
That's where I would place the beginning of the third act. The third act of this movie just happens for the movie to happen. Like, and I don't know if that's why Jeff found the ending unsatisfying, but now we're just having stuff happen so the stuff can happen. Partly it's the superpowering of her when she holds the device. So right after this, what Mike was talking about, they find Hugo in the warehouse where they have reconstructed the Margaret's home that she existed in, a little girl, to help prod her memory. Daniel and Margaret go on a Pink Floyd psychedelic trip together back to their childhoods to recall, like, this when the animals come in. They remind them of the aliens, which we need to talk about for a moment, because we have gotten too accustomed in our world to aliens just stealing people's children. Like, you're going to take my children and do whatever the heck with them. and that no one goes like that wasn't right. Like they reconnect, they kind of understand their powers. Scanlon, Boyd, their crew arrive, and she uses the device to make the house and all of the home's interior invisible. And I'm thinking, how do we get from empathy and the gift of language to now she can make stuff invisible? I kind of bumped this for a minute.
There's so much that's problematic in this whole series. And I think as you're recounting it, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make much sense. And perhaps we could land on self-indulgence. And I like, bless the man, Steven Spielberg. You have done great good for me, for my family, for the world. Man, make a self-indulgent movie. I'm gonna cheer you on. But I can actually sit back and say this just doesn't make any sense. I would love to bring up the fact that I was really moved by them setting up the trauma. I would also love to offer, and I would love your responses, but probing kids in an Epstein world right now is not a good way to communicate your story. The move there was I found distasteful and really a huge miss for me because of the moment. So there's two things there. Like I loved they were setting up the trauma and then they shifted and it really took me out, just given what was my own filter is for the cultural moment, how kids are treated in our society.
Should have been E.T. there at the end, just and a couple of fingers, coming a little callback. Yeah, I didn't see that, but and maybe it was sort of like Epstein playing in the background, but I know I kind of bumped up on the whole children's thing. Like I was like, oh, and like these are children, and like they're just something I didn't like about that move. So I'm with you. I don't know if it's for the exact same reasons, but at the same time, I think Spielberg is trying to say something about the innocence that we lose as we grow older, and being able to receive this. And like it's like kind of how we talk about children are taught to be racist. Like we're taught to be a bunch of other things too. And there's this time in life where there's a purity because of our experience and our lack of trauma that we are open in a certain way that we're not in other parts of life. So I'm kind of on both sides of that.
No, go ahead, Sean. You finish up.
No, I know you wanted to talk about the Hansel and Gretel house. And so, because I know that scene was meaningful for you.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what preceded the train. I mean, it's that delayed question. What happened to us? And now we come into Margaret's house, this facsimile of, and Hugo does tell her, no, it's we're creating a passage to return you to your experience in the most familiar way possible. For you to find your purpose, you have to go back to where it began. You have to go home. For me, it was not and I get what you're saying, Jeff, and I understand the sensitivity at this point, but I took it in a much broader, that all of us, to Sean's point, like all of us have that thing that happens to us both individually and collectively. Like this is a loss of innocence, that has its personal component, but it's also a very corporate thing. And I think Spielberg's dealing with both. And it's not, to your point about depravity, Jeff, like, do we need an external savior? Yes, but it's the both and. Also, it requires us to travel back into the crucible of our own making, to go back to where it all began so that we can then transcend it, because that thing is our superpower. And it's the thing that the enemy does not want us to actually grab hold of, because and we may only have a couple, like to go to the alien rod component of it, like maybe we only get a couple of these things to make a really like big wish into the world from this fullness of ourself that Scanlan can't seem to use, except for this limited, fashion to just kind of peer in, versus, someone with an actual attunement to.
And Hugo hints to that when Scanlan does use one of the devices.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing.
You don't understand. You don't know the power, or and you don't know how to use it. And I got the sense in that, I don't know if you did too, that Hugo perhaps was a more experienced and stronger user of the device, because apparently it almost killed him as well as almost killing Noah to use it.
And they were already building Margaret's house before Margaret's activation. Like I see Hugo as a prophet. Like he's dialed in, via his interactions clearly with a key character that is introduced only by letter and number that we meet at the end of the film.
But we don't know why Hugo knows that it's Margaret, right? I mean, you could kind of track back because of Wardex how Hugo could figure it out. It's Daniel, but we don't know how he knows Margaret is the one. That's not revealed at any point.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
All right. So we've had this image, and this is, I understand that people are bumping on this too, because the big UFO imagery in Spielberg's big summer alien movie is actually this like Thomas Kincaid like level CGI Hansel Gretel house in the woods, and this glowing gold light that these animals, these terrifying animals, have led the children back to, finding that is just the form that they are taking to not alarm us, that they are in fact, your prototypical almond-headed, gray, big-eyed aliens. So it's not giving you the UFO or what you were looking for, Jeff.
No, I thought the aliens were fine.
Okay.
It's again, there seems to be so much tension built up around the philosophical implications of something he wants to expose. And I think you're doing a great job outlining perhaps what I missed in terms of past and our redemption and the past really need to be wrestled with, brought forward, thought through, our connection. There might be an Adam and Eve kind of image here because there's clearly a male and a female that routinely are appearing, and Genesis plays into some of the theology. And it could be the case that, like, as you're outlining some of the points, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see this. It just didn't. I don't know how else to say it just didn't work for me, And the way that the movie specifically ends with the montage and the last line, it's as though you had set us up for your answer and are not going to give it. And you assume that there's so many assumptions that this thing from beyond matters and will matter. And it just missed me. But I did, it just missed me. So.
But that goes back, what you just said goes back to what I said earlier about what you didn't get from the trailers is whether the movie ends at Disclosure Day or begins with Disclosure Day.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it ends, and I do want to talk about, I want to hear more of what Mike has to say about the house, if he does, but how we get to the TV station, because that's where, at the TV station is where I was like, none of this makes any sense at all. But it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different task, storytelling task, with whether you begin at Disclosure Day or end at Disclosure Day. Because when you end with Disclosure Day, you are handing it back to the audience and saying, what will you do with this? And you're telling much more of a stock summer blockbuster if you begin with Disclosure Day, and then you've got, all the beats of like an X-Files movie. So I think that's really, I think that one choice tells you what world you're in. Yep. And for at least what I'm saying.
I think what people are bumping against, and maybe explains, why I have seen this film 4 times in the past week, is that it is a profoundly hopeful, optimistic film, at a point in time where that level of sincerity is met with a kind of a huh, what, like, are you watching the same world that I'm watching? Are you watching it with the same, clear-eyed perspective of the kind of collective horrors that we are all watching unfold? And does something seem kind of boomerish and detached from the urgency of some of these matters? And that's where, like, I am receiving it so much as an antidote to that hopelessness. I want to, like, to borrow the X-Files. No, I want to believe. I want to believe that we could actually transcend our worst instincts, and that disclosure of something along this magnitude, true disclosure that we are not alone in the universe. But that's something we know anyway. It's we get back to the news station, and sure, there's a little bit of a final delay, and they trip the generators, and that's just like movie making to get us to where we know we're inevitably ending up. But now we're on air, and Disclosure Day has begun. All of these clips unfolding in unedited, and all of the ways that what we have seen, these abuses unfolded, and we're watching this in 2026. We're all seeing the same things, Jeff. Like, we're seeing Epstein, and we're seeing immigration.
By the way, I'm with you entirely right now.
And
I'm totally with you.
Has any of this done anything to us? Not really.
And that was this is what's come up in a lot of the literature around the movie. And all of our friends, Jordan, said to us, like, this movie is 20 years too late in terms of the way it ends. And people have pointed to Spielberg being 79, almost 80. And there was a time for folks that age where information actually mattered in terms of what you believed. Facts actually mattered in terms of changing your mind. And that is no longer like the world that we inhabit. When I was talking about it with my wife, I was like, if that were to actually happen, all of this information going out to the world, there would be someone on YouTube live countermanding what they just saw, right? Or like what was being streamed. And we have this wonderful, and I didn't pull her name, and I should have, because she actually gives, like, I think maybe the second best performance in the movie.
I was trying to find the same thing.
And from my understanding, she's an actual news anchor, or at least was, and has done a little bit of acting. But she is, in terms of just storytelling exposition, that was a great device to use.
Oh, I'm gonna disagree.
The actress's name is Courtney Grace. Courtney Grace, shout out! You get a Sacred Frames Award for today.
From I thought two of the three hosts. Not her fault, actually.
But it was very, in terms of just pulling you out of the story, I firmly believe, and this just may be mine and Jeff's cynicism, you could easily have those events happen tonight, and half the world would not believe you. And nobody anywhere is going to just let you run film that's been unvetted, unchecked.
Yeah.
It's just because, like, I was just like, that's just, and it's
there's an
like
AI check. You hear one of the ladies go, we checked it. It's
These
not
are
AI.
ground truth pixels, Jeff.
Ground truth.
That's all the explanation I need.
And I'm fine with that in a summer movie. Like I said, Minority Report's one of my favorite movies, and its inciting incident is something that just literally cannot happen in the world. That is philosophically incoherent. So I'm okay with that, but it pulled me out enough to go, oh man, where's that movie that I was watching with cars bursting through houses and this big train chase? Can we go back to that movie now? And the white van pulls up with geriatric alien in it.
Oh, we're getting there right now.
And I'm just like,
I'd love to speak to this real quick. One, I don't think I'm cynical. However, it is the case that earlier in the film they showed human beings abusing and torturing aliens. When there's a small set controlling, why would it be any different when you make more human beings? Like, of course we're going to see these folks as enemies. I think a fantastic alien film that shows you what humanity would actually do would be Man of Steel, in which we gear up to oppose the alien threat. He's with us. We need to figure this out. The thing I connect with you on, Mike, is that I also want to believe, and let me list 3 Spielberg movies where he delivers. Schindler, The Post, and Lincoln. Deprived humanity, systems that are thwarting the public good, and yet human beings who raise up with heroism to meet the moment and inspire, as opposed to what I see here, which is like deep longing and just nothing to grab hold of for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe so as I'm thinking through the end of the film, the lectionary text this past weekend was Matthew 9-10, and in it Jesus is sending out the 12 disciples into the field. But I found this this curious note that he says, don't go to the Gentiles and the Samaritans, right? Like, not first. Like, first go to the lost among
lost sheep of Israel,
your own tribe, right? So and we are living at a point where, like, if we're to happen upon some broad scale unity or peace, like, it has to begin at home. Like, we've got to go back to the place that thing happened, all of us. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Because it's only that which allows us to then see the other through those eyes of empathy, through those eyes of compassion. And I believe Hugo when he says empathy is the foremost evolutionary advantage. It is the core of animate existence. And it's what then has, we wheel out this elderly alien on his little, like, Segway scooter and, like, unzip him from his his little box. And
he's, like, wearing Under Armour, which
Yeah.
I thought was, like, hilarious.
But and this is the kookiest ending to a Spielberg movie I can imagine, like, maybe since AI. And it is this aging alien. This is Spielberg as an older representation of his cinematic self, now older and wiser than these 2 characters that represent his parents, that he can then whisper the thing that they weren't able to say to one another and might have, because he can do so with the distance of empathy, the distance of understanding of like, I am older now than my parents were when they divorced, and that was the core trauma of my life. Mm-hmm. I understand them now at that point better than they understood themselves in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so I release resentment, and I release the fear of that which I don't understand. I've gone back to the home, and then I can come forward carrying the gift of that trauma, because none of us get to choose whether or not we're abducted by aliens. We all were. It just looked different to each of us. Like, what we do with that, how we allow that to then compel us toward one another in empathy, that means everything about how we choose to live in this world. It's a choice. It's not Calvinistic. We have a choice, like, even at the end. They have a choice. Scanlon says, don't look her in the eye. Some of them just walk off. Some of them still don't want to see, not ready. Our job is to do the work, to continue forward, because we believe in a more hopeful vision of this gift from beyond than the destruction that we've been told is inevitable. Masterpiece.
Is this where the altar call comes in? Mike
Too
has
just as I
preached his
am.
heart out. He has given us the text and the implications. We are now all things are ready. Come to the feast. The baptismal waters are here for those of you who have rejected Disclosure Day to be redeemed.
I bring the good news. No, and here's this.
Okay.
So key text. This is like the last thing, and I'll shut up. I promise. So the drama, The Gifted Child. If y'all may be familiar by Alice Miller, it's like a little pamphlet. It's like 100 pages long, but it's all about how the resistance to going back to that place is what is keeping us individually and collectively ill. And so this is just from the closing here, and this is my kind of final word through the prism of trauma work that we all need to be a part of at some point. A person who can honestly and without self-deception deal with his feelings has no need to disguise them with the help of ideologies. The basic similarity of the various nationalistic movements flourishing today reveals that their motives have nothing to do with the real interests of the people who are fighting and hating, but instead have very much to do with those people's childhood histories. The mistreatment, humiliation, and exploitation of children is the same worldwide, as is the means of avoiding the memory of it. Individuals who do not want to know their own truth collude in denial with society as a whole, looking for a common enemy on whom to act out their repressed rage. But as inhabitants of this shrinking planet, near the end of the 20th century, now 21st, the danger inherent in self-deception is growing exponentially, and we can afford it less than ever. Fortunately, at the same time, we now have the tools we need to truly understand ourselves as we were and as we are. So we can look across from one another and do what Emily Blunt directs us to at the very end of the film, right down the barrel of the camera. One word that we have just gotten, woefully inept at doing, broadly speaking. Listen.
So much to say.
Black screen. Okay. You make a strong case, Mike. I want to say I have some questions. Not thematic questions, but just storytelling questions. Mm-hmm. Third act of the movie.
Can I respond to that? Go for
it.
But ideology isn't the solution, but let me give you my ideology, is what I heard in that quote. Refusal to go back to that place. And in essence, saying that something has happened to infect all of us is a presupposition. And I don't know that it's true. I don't have it. It may be true for some folks, and I don't want to, I'm super suspicious of story work. I don't know that this guy hasn't said yet, but and it's part of this is I don't have past tools like the four does in front of me, and I want to celebrate, that a lot of times finding grounding means doing some wrestling with your past and the places of abuse, trauma, and finding one's humanity. I'm deeply suspicious of this approach for everybody. I'm deeply suspicious. I'm really suspicious when somebody says ideology isn't the problem and then they pitch an ideology, because that's not just contradictory. That's taking a posture that a lot of people who are very unhealthy will do. Don't trust anyone else, just me is what. That's not, I don't think, what you're saying, but it's just that's just my heart here. I'm just looking. I think I'm looking for something else as the solution, and it's not what is being offered here. And it may be the case again, as was said with Spielberg. This may be what he needs to do. This is the autobiographical piece where he wants to do a piece of art that's therapeutic for him. Close his canon in a way that's meaningful, that has, that can be spoken of. Bless the man, and those who really related to it. It just, if it gets beyond that, it becomes prescriptive, then I'm gonna push back and say it's just not for me. And I'll give you 12 reasons why. So,
Yeah, I think that's an interesting and bigger conversation because I did not hear that in terms of what Mike shared, but I heard like
perfect.
ideology is not the reason that we are divided and dismissive. Is
Yes,
what I heard
right.
Mike saying. Like it's not because these people believe this X and other people believe Y. So,
All cases, yeah.
but this is
She was pitching us.
yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Yep. Jeff wants to put on his philosopher hat so bad right now.
It's inescapable. I'm sorry.
Well, Mike got to preach for a little bit. You could be a
Yeah,
philosopher
exactly.
for a while.
Bring what I have to the table.
Yeah, it was just like where it fell apart for me, and I enjoyed this movie. I gotta is so many things just happened for the movie to happen. When Scanlon and the team arrive at the hotel, that Jane escapes out of the back window because they never thought that a hotel like that might have windows in the back. She arrives at the TV station and just walks in, like zero resistance. At the end, Noah and Boyd, like Noah just sits down, and and his men just leave. Like these people have been dedicated to this for all of these years, and suddenly now it's like, woo, you know, like what's for dinner, hon?
She's got the stick. What are they supposed to do?
Just like zero resistance, and I just have a thing about plot armor at that level. Like all of this is happening this way just because we're coming up on the 2-hour, 20-minute mark and we need to wrap up. It takes no time at all. And I'm sure television studios have much better technology than I have in my house. It takes no time at all to upload those files. Everyone just receives these transmissions like pell-mell, no questions asked. We just start running them. That's when I was like, oh, okay. Like, let's see where they... And then when you get at the end, you get listen. That's when it feels unsatisfactory. Because I think most movies should be shorter. This one could have been 10 minutes longer to not go sixth grade on me.
You know what was really good after Listen? What was really great was just sitting back and listening to John Williams' score for the next 8 minutes. And
I think
just
you're avoiding the point.
luxuriating. I get the point. I disagree. There was the guy, the first time I saw it, guy turned around in his seat to to me and my buddy Kevin. He's like, "What do you think they're going to do in the sequel?" And I'm thinking to myself, sir, we watched very different films.
Well, he wanted Disclosure Day at the beginning. That's what he's saying. Like I wanted to see the fallout of knowing what this is.
And meanwhile, I mean, what I'm going to be left with ultimately, and it's in Courtney, Grace's performance there at the end. It's what she's embodying is this someone who is in real time working through her own feelings. She's even, at a certain point apologizing for it. I'm sorry. I don't know how to talk about what I'm seeing. But ultimately what she gets to is what immediately precedes that line, listen. And it's, that if you're watching this, this raises profound questions about our place in the universe. But most importantly, if you're watching this, if you're seeing this, you are not alone. Like, that's it. Like that is
even I felt that.
Come on.
Like, yeah. But that's my the not being alone. Like that's my tender spot for all things everywhere, right? But do you think, Mike? Do you think that Spielberg is trying to reignite our capacity for wonder and truth?
As much as his own, yeah, I think so. Like I view this as he's working through the same thematic concerns and like the therapeutic that he certainly started like breaking open in a major way with Fablemans. But like I said at the beginning, this is him applying it to this very boisterous chase movie. Like, yeah, it's got these kind of deeper levels going on, but it's also just a frankly like fun time at the movies for the most part. That's as much what I dialed into as much as the broader thematic. Like I think he's the person that created the sandbox that we are all, continuing to live in for both better and worse, with the summer movies and whatnot. Like Ready Player One is him reckoning with that in the text itself. Like, oh, like looking at the hell I hath wrought like of this digital world. And this is him, like, I think I'm sensing a freer, easier, like it just kind of has this like old master letting it loose a little bit.
I think the question is really important, and I think you're right to say that is what his ambition is, and it's an ambition to cheer for in a world where a lot of the media is dehumanizing by design,
Yep.
chasing views and likes and ad revenue, and doing so at cost to the rest of us. These are the folks who are toxins in our world that should be prosecuted for infecting much of us. The real heroes in media are those who sell that trap and don't commoditize. It's not commoditization. What is that? It's like intentionally lying and sabotaging the process of human beings coming to reality in ways that's beautiful and good, and they are platforming the worst elements to get us fearful and angry. They're a toxin.
And just the base level starvation for the truth. Like that's what's animating Daniel from the get go. It's this fundamental truth about who we are and what the universe is. And Wardex doesn't own it any more than they own air or light. It belongs to 8 billion people. Like that's the thing
That's something we didn't bring up. Yeah. The government control or media control or the control of the elite over the broad swath of humanity who actually does have humanity. I think that's an important point that's also made in the film. If only human beings knew the truth, then we would do something worthwhile. So we just need to listen.
So, final verdict on Disclosure Day. Has anything changed? Do you like it more? Do you like it less? Mike, are you seeing it for the 5th time tonight?
Well, unfortunately,
where do we all
I've tapped out my A-list for the week, Sean.
Understood. Jeff?
I am really excited to watch an alien film coming up. Supergirl is on the horizon. I think I am the only person that I know that's excited about this movie, but I'm jazzed for it. Which actually, Mike, is this going to be a movie for addiction recovery and have those themes? It seems like this is going to be some stuff we're talking about on those fronts.
We'll see. I've got what I'm taking the kids to Toy Story 5 on Sunday on Father's Day. So that's what
that
we'll
was
doing.
out.
And then what do we have? We got Jackass best and last next week. So that's which I will contend has always been a series about the particular nature of male friendship and now aging in some ways that I find surprisingly touching while they're getting kicked in the nuts with hammers and whatnot.
I will not be seeing either one of those movies. So I would much rather just put on my newly arriving 4K edition of The Matrix and give that a rewatch. But all right. Well, it is glad. I have been Sean Palmer along with Jeff Cook.
Landing the plane.
And Movie Mike. Because I'm actually trying to get to a movie. So enjoy.
You guys are the best.
We will see you next time on Sacred Frames.
Click.